Wayfarer 515, Albuquerque Center, Roger, climb and maintain 13,000.
Riding down a trail to Albuquerque, saddlebags all filled with beans and...
Welcome to the City on the Edge podcast with your hosts, Nora Hickey, Mike Smith, and Ty Bannerman.
Don't look much like Los Angeles to me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
How are you?
Good. Where are you? This is crazy looking.
Oh, I'm in Alamogordo. I'm attending a burning of Harry Potter books in 2001.
Yeah, they were really upset about J.K. Rowling's bigoted anti-transgender stance.
They could see it coming. Nobody else knew about it at that point, but they were like, you know what? We need to teach our children tolerance for everyone.
Right.
Yeah. Well, this is when the Christ Community Church burned the books because they said they were masterpieces of satanic deception.
Wouldn't call them masterpieces.
Entertaining works of satanic deception.
I guess they are masterpieces in that they really got into a lot of hands.
Groovy. What are we talking about today? I forgot we were recording.
We're talking about Satan, man. We're talking about Satan.
Oh, the Satanic Panic.
Yeah.
No wonder you have your background photo. Okay,
that's why they're burning Harry Potter books behind me in my virtual background here. So I have a story. You know, it's kind of I have it written down, but it's more, it's more like a dialogue. We can talk about it as we go, not like I'm going to read it. So, I don't know. Do you guys remember the Satanic Panic at all? I mean, were you?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So what
I didn't. So I had to look it up.
You had to look it up, Nora. See, you are young. So, Mike, you were in the church, a church anyway. What was?
Oh man.
What do you remember?
I remember Satanic Panic very well, and in fact, I was freaked out about some of that stuff. I remember thinking the Satanists are really we got to take our black cats in on Halloween because the Satanists are gonna kill our black cats. We always have black cats. I love black cats. And
it's like a pretty common one, right?
Yeah, and
also entry level satanic ritual, right?
Right.
I also had fantasy prone friends that were totally into it from a sort of counterculture perspective. Like, yeah, we went out to the desert, did a ritual, man, and there were these hellhounds. They were running around. And like, really? Or you saw a stray dog or something. But
well, I think that's the thing, right? Like it sort of was a phenomenon that fed, like the panic fed the teenagers taking it on as like a countercultural thing, and then that fed the panic. It was very cyclical. What did you just show there?
Yeah,
this is a book called Jay's Journal. This is a canonical foundational text for the Satanic Panic right here. You may have heard of the book Go Ask Alice, which was a faked story from a Mormon psychologist and author. She claimed to have written this harrowing tale of drug addiction, but it's just hilarious. Paul F. Tompkins, on his comedy album Freak Wharf, which is named after a line in that book, says that it's like two cops from Dragnet or something had some extra time, and so they wanted to type up a book. And it's really funny. Like, first she does like acid and cocaine and stuff, and then she's like, I'm thinking about trying weed.
Oh my god.
And it's like, this is kind of weird,
Well,
but anyway, that same author, after she had a hit with Go Ask Alice and hysteria over drug addiction, she had a lesser hit with Jay's Journal, which is about a kid into Dungeons and Dragons who of course transitions into Satanism. And it's hilarious. And supposedly Jay's Journal, Jay is about a boy from like Orem or Provo, Utah, and his grave is there in Provo, and it glows green and red sometimes. And so I went to this grave when I happened to be living in Utah working on an independent movie, and It does glow green and red because it's directly across from a traffic light, and it reflects it. Isn't that so funny?
We had a glowing grave in Seabrook, Texas, like that. That was like it was like a reflection of a light, but villagers would go and scare themselves by looking at it at night.
Yeah, I mean that stuff's cool. I like it, but it's you know there's usually a psychological.
But anyway,
so that
I found another book. I found another text that helps the Satanic Panic.
Huh.
Michelle remembers.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. So hold off on that one for a moment, because if you got stuff to talk about that, there's a place where we can talk about.
Like it. I have heard of them, yeah.
Just
I've got some other books on the Satanic Panic. I'm looking them up.
Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's hear it. You lead the way. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back in time to March 29th, 1990.
Nice.
Doug Campbell, who was an environmental scientist working for PNM, which if you're listening from somewhere else in the country, that's our power company out here, was reviewing some aerial photos of power lines out on the West Mesa when he noticed this weird pattern etched into the ground. It was 3 hexagrams. Was it hexagons? As you can see here, linked by some lines, straight lines. The entire design was about 400 feet across, and it had these letters as well. This is what he's seeing from the air. So he was like, well, that's really weird. So he drove out to the location on the mesa to take a closer look, and he found that it was a pattern laid out in tires. Each tire spaced 5 feet across, 5 feet apart. And each side of the hexagon, of these hexagons, was made up of 13 tires. Each hexagon has 6 sides, 3 sets of hexagons with 6 sides. What do we got? We got 6, 6, 6. Each side made up of 13, right? So that's awfully creepy. And Doug Campbell was creeped out. So when he got back to the office, he called around. Nobody had any idea what it was that he was looking at. So he wound up reporting it to the Albuquerque Journal. Albuquerque Journal then began investigating, contacting all sorts of different experts to see if they could find out what these symbols are. And about the only thing they could figure out at first was that the patterns could be seen in aerial photographs going back 8 years, so since 1982. And one of their experts said that the pattern was precise enough that someone would have had to have used surveying equipment to lay it all out. But as for why or what the meaning of it was, everybody was perplexed and confused until they reached out to the Rio Rancho Police Department. An unnamed Rio Rancho police officer said that the layout was identical to an ancient Egyptian seal used in magical incantations. He said it is definitely a ceremonial site used by a cult.
Oh gosh.
And then Officer Paul Montoya of the Albuquerque Police Department agreed. He said he was an expert in Satanism and said it was definitely witchcraft.
Whoa.
Sorry, I got Nora to weigh in here. What's your guess as to what this is?
Definitely, I think the witchcraft is a good likely thing. No, I don't know. It could be all kinds of things. I mean, like maybe there was like a dirt bike racing area or something around there. Maybe it was an artist project. Land art has a deep history in New Mexico. It could go back to something like that. There's things all over, you know, from the lightning field in Camado to Cabinet Landia, which was like a parcel of land divided into square feet down in Southwest New Mexico. And Stephen Usherman wrote about it once in a magazine article. It was really interesting. But I mean, like land art, there's just always been something going on. And also, if you walk around the desert, you always find weird structures and stuff. And if you want to like get into the symbology and numerology of like how many steps there are and sides there are to things, I mean, you know, bees don't make hexagonal cells because they love that shape. They make circular ones and they settle into hexagons when they stack a bunch of them together, you know? And like it, you know, there's just some shapes that are like really common that just turn up again and again. Like I'm thinking about this time I found these like motorbike bleachers or something on the side of Harris Canyon on the east side of town. I still don't know what they were. Like, were they like a place that people would go like watch events out there? Like I was thinking dirt bike racing or something, or was it like a flood control thing or something? But I mean, you find weird stuff around all the time. I wrote an article once on people were finding these cones of logs in the sandias everywhere. There were like logs stacked around dead trees. And it was like this big mystery, and I got assigned to write something about it. Being a mystery. And as soon as I made a couple emails to rangers, they were like, "That's a fire prevention method. You know, those things are supposed to be picked up later." And we're just getting the stuff off the ground. You know,
right?
And so I mean, I bet there's some banal or at least artistic explanation. You know,
okay.
Why does it say turf on it?
That's part of the mystery. And just for the record, though, you're both saying you don't think it's an ancient Egyptian seal used in magical incantations. Just
no.
I bet it. Oh, when was this?
1990. 1990.
Oh,
all right. Well,
I'm going with my 3 baseball areas that share a sort of outfield.
Okay. All right. Okay, so one thing I think we should do to kind of set the stage, zoom out a little bit and talk about what it was like in 1990 and how there was this intense interest in fear of Satanism and witchcraft in the adult on a worldwide scale. And that had been the case since the early 1980s. So there were a number of things that happened to kind of cause people to become very concerned about Satanism prior to this. One was the release of the movie The Exorcist, which made, satanic possession seem like a very real, creepy thing that could happen. Another was in 1980, there was a Canadian psychologist who published a book called Michelle Remembers. And Nora, you said you were reading about Michelle Remembers?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I love this cover. So what was what did you find out about Michelle Remembers?
Basically that this woman, Michelle, was a patient of this psychiatrist, I believe. Lawrence Pazder, and over 600 hours of, sessions, recorded sessions, her story about being possessed, having to undergo satanic ritual abuse, as prompted, it sounded like, according to her, by her mother. Mm-hmm. She's witnessed a lot of stuff, terrible stuff, a lot of stuff with babies and but witnessed it in her town. It sounds like a relatively sleepy town of Victoria in Canada.
Yeah. And
then it was disproven, or it's believed to be debunked that this did not happen.
Right. And not only that, this phenomenon, like a lot of her memories were recovered under hypnosis.
Yes.
And of course, when you put a person under hypnosis, they enter a very suggestible state. Mm-hmm. So one thing that often happens is if the hypnotist is asking leading questions, then they can actually wind up convincing the person under hypnosis that they are having those memories. So there was another big case called the McMartin preschool Satanism case, ritualistic abuse case. That was in California. Yeah, where not only were there allegations that children were being sexually abused at this preschool, but the allegations went so far as to say there were secret underground tunnels that led to Mexico, that all sorts of like Hollywood celebrities were part of the abuse that was taking place during satanic rituals, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm sorry, that sounds so familiar to QAnon.
Yeah, very similar, actually. And so these two things, like kind of propelled this idea that there were Satanists like all over the place, secretly doing terrible, terrible things into the international consciousness. And as a result, there was, what's that?
Yeah. Well, it sounded like it was very focused on kids. The purported abuses were happening to helpless kids at daycares or, you know, cults.
Right. So it started with like preschool kids, right? And then the teachers are suspect at the preschools. Then you've got rock and roll records like Ozzy Osbourne, you know, that's corrupting the teenagers. Creators of the role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons, I think I have a picture, here we go, got caught up in this as well. It got linked to Satanism.
That's just cool. Those dummies.
I remember a Mormon guy crying to me that he had started playing Dungeons and Dragons and had invited demons into his life, and one stood in his doorway and threatened him. And I was like, you probably believe that, man.
Yeah, but, part of him, right? Like maybe some weird dream he had. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, so there were trials for like the preschool teachers. People spent time in jail for this. There were book burnings. Dungeons and Dragons stuff got burned. A friend of mine's D&D stuff got burned. And then record burnings and God knows how many daytime talk show episodes. Well, let's see. All right, so this is a little taste of the Satanic Panic.
I do not think that many parents are aware of what's inside the game. In fact, in my presentation, I show many pictures from the inside the books just to show the images of this game. I mean, the gruesomeness of this game and the occult link to it.
Well, I know that when I did my message, and this has happened, I have letter after letter where people took the pieces. Now, there's sixes involved in the pieces of the game, but they'd take the pieces of the game, they would throw them in the incinerator or the fireplace, and screams would come out because there seemed to be some kind of spiritual forces inhabiting those pieces, and children would drop out of life. They didn't want to study anymore. What are the pieces, for instance?
Right. Daytime talk shows were all about this, and they would dig people up who... you know, either were doing some sort of Satanism, not as extensive or as crazy as they would lead you to believe, or like this guy, the guest on this show, later admitted that he had just made all of it up. So, just want to play a little of him.
How real is devil worship? Well, that's what my next guests will inform us. First, we have Dark Lord Blood. He's a 7th-generation Satanist. Satanic worship goes back to his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. He grew up with this. Dark Lord Blood, I mean, you've seen these rituals. What is it?
Well, it's a ritual of they may want to give something in a sacrificial sense to a demon, you know, such as to mimic the biblical sacrifice of Abraham.
Do Satanists look different? I mean, are all your friends Satanists?
No, I don't have any friends, but my acquaintances are, yeah.
He's a lonely Satanist.
Poor guy.
And then it got mixed into other issues that churches were obsessed with.
Two different communities that use this park. One is the pagan or occultic community, and the other community is, of course, the homosexual.
Like 2004. And there were a lot of Satanic Panic type stories there, but they were usually involved in like gang stuff. They'd say like this gang killed these people, put their bodies out in pentagram stuff. And I'm like, I guess that's possible.
Well, there was an actual terrifying series of murders that took place in Mexico, in Matamoros, that was linked to a kind of like a witchcraft or folk witchcraft. Had a lot to do with the cartels. So there were sometimes real things, but
makes sense.
Most of the time not. But here, let me just start this one back up.
Two different communities that use this park. One is the pagan or occultic community, and the other community is, of course, the homosexual community. Interestingly enough, they go hand in hand.
We got the Satanists holding hands with the homosexuals. And then this guy, he really puts it all together for us.
The Satanic Salute. and the unicorn, flying horse, rainbows. Of course, that's the New Age symbols. Enchantments, fetishes, potions, spells, Dungeons and Dragons, occult games like that, psychic readings, reincarnation, pyramid, clairaudience, mental science, false visions, superstitions, amulets, talismans, Satanism, karma. These are some of the occult spirits. Now, if you've dabbled in any of these, then you're cursed. Your children are cursed. Your grandchildren are cursed. Your great-grandchildren.
So, yeah, if you've dabbled in pyramids, if you're an archaeologist, then you're cursed.
It's funny because it's so laughable looking back, but from doing some, research and thinking of how people who were jailed for false crimes of the daycare cases seemed especially like people were wrongfully jailed.
Right. The Oak Hill ritual trials, another preschool, another pair of people were alleged to have committed pretty much the same kind of abuse allegations as the McMartin trial, but this was in Texas. They were in jail for 22 years before the state declared them to be innocent, which is extremely unusual. Like, even when people get out of jail for issues pertaining to a trial or something like that, they're usually not just declared carte blanche innocent. But that's exactly what happened in Austin. They had all kinds of reasons to look back and say that what had occurred there was false. So, as mentioned, most of these allegations were debunked, oftentimes pretty quickly. But and like I said, the phenomenon of memories being recovered through hypnotism was found to be completely fraudulent. But the cultural impact of what we now call the Satanic Panic would continue to grow for years after these initial cases of the 1980s stuff. And here in New Mexico, we weren't immune. We had album burnings. There was a famous preacher who came here in the early 80s burning Ozzy Osbourne albums. Sometimes there were allegations that were in fact linked to actual murders, as in the case of a guy named Timothy Wildermuth, who did kill a minister, and he did actually possess something like the Satanic Bible, Anton LaVey's book. But after researching, what had happened, after pursuing the details of the crime, it was determined that it was basically just a robbery. 1987, 2 ex-Marines killed a shopkeeper in Mesilla, New Mexico. The press seized on the fact that they played Dungeons and Dragons and kind of blew that up as a possible factor in the crime. This is a forensic psychologist showing some items seized from the apartment of one of the Marines. I think you could see, it looks like maybe some action figures.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Chinese throwing star, so, and he was saying that these were indications of a possible occult connection.
Yeah.
But again, the motive was found to be robbery. But if you look back through the Albuquerque Journal archives for anything having to do with Satanism or satanic influences, most of the links you can find are pretty tenuous. Here's a typical headline from 1988. Teachers instructed to avoid Satanism.
Wow.
This is in 1988. The principal in Los Lunas got worried that there were certain books that might lead children down a dark path. So he issued guidance to his teachers, telling them to be careful about what kind of materials they were using, but none of them were actually using any of the materials that he was worried about. So that didn't go anywhere. In 1989, this is one of our local satanic experts in the early 90s. I just love the picture of him just holding a skull, looking kind of satanic actually. But this was something that he was supposedly using in his trainings or whatever. In 1989, the Sandoval County Sheriff Bert DeLara announced that he was going to be extra vigilant against Satanists that Halloween because A, he'd seen some 666 graffiti, and B, he'd attended a Satanism seminar for law enforcement in Kylene, Texas, and he knew what to look out for.
Oh, man.
One of the things that he said he was going to look out for was dancing. So just straight up dancing. Apparently, Halloween night in 1989 was pretty quiet, though, because there were no follow-up articles about his particular crusade. And then in 1990, about 6 months after this Egyptian or satanic seal was found on the West Mesa that we started the show with, Reverend Bob Carmen of Victory Love Fellowship Church, now called Legacy Church, still in business.
Oh my gosh.
That's creepy.
See if I got a picture of him. Here we go.
Well-known mega church.
Yeah, so this is from an anti-Halloween event they were holding. He delivered a sermon in which he claimed that a woman had been arrested for trying to kidnap 3 babies from an Albuquerque hospital so that she could sacrifice them to Satan on Halloween. Thank God police got her, he said, and then he followed up by saying, "How many out there have they not gotten?"
That was Morrow.
That was Morrow?
Yeah.
The one that they didn't get?
Yeah, no, she's a witch that steals babies.
Oh, God.
Okay, that was the one. He then went on to say, your mailman might be a Satanist, the store clerk might be one, the attorney you go to might be one, your doctor might be one. But strangely, Albuquerque police had no record of any woman being arrested for attempting to kidnap babies from any Albuquerque hospitals. He had heard the rumor from one of his parishioners.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Mike?
People just don't understand though. Oh, I was just going to say, people don't understand that you need the babies to make the flying ointment. If you don't have a baby, you can't make the flying ointment.
I learned that from the movie The Witch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's horrible. That's a horrible part in that movie, but
it's so horrible.
Yeah. But what a great film.
So even though most of these claims didn't stand up to scrutiny, that didn't stop New Mexico schools from doing things like canceling Halloween celebrations, or like I said, parents burning their kids' heavy metal records or Dungeons and Dragons books, that kind of thing. So back to this crazy pattern on the West Mesa. Let's go back to that real quick. Nice. Do you guys want to? Okay, Nora, you were saying that you think it was something to do with like a linked series of baseball fields.
Yeah, for Little League and whatnot. Yeah.
Okay, and Mike, I think you were saying maybe land art.
Yeah, especially with that word on there. If that word is actually a part of it, teef or turf or whatever it says, that seems like a signature almost.
All right.
You know. So.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to give the answer.
I like Nora.
Yeah. So the very day that the Albuquerque Journal published the article about the mystery on the Mesa, the creator of the symbols called the office. I'll go back to him. That's a picture of him right there. Glenn Shockley on the left. He invented a game called Turf Ball, T-E-R-F. Which uses this big oversized ball that he's holding in his hand and requires a large amount of space to play. 8 years before, he and the guys that he played the game with, which included the former mayor of Albuquerque, David Rusk, mayor of Albuquerque from 1977 to 1981, set up a turf ball field on the Mesa using a bunch of tires that someone had dumped out there. After they played a few games, they decided that the ground was too uneven and rough to keep using the area, so they abandoned it.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, I seem to have lost the last part of my script here. Hold on 1 second. So they abandoned it, and as far as the need for surveying equipment, which some expert had said was the case, in order to get it so precise, He said that the only equipment that they had used was a keg of beer and a barbecue grill, which of course they just fed themselves. So you can see right here, this is the actual layout of a field. That's where the hexagrams would be.
Whoa.
And then there are in the middle of each hexagram, there is a that would be where the goals are. So there'd be like flags or something, and you kick the ball. Yeah, I mean, you know, apparently they had a good time playing it. But yeah, so it was incredibly embarrassing for the Albuquerque Journal.
Oh my
and
God.
You know, and the Rio Rancho Police Department and the Albuquerque Police Department.
Well, how about, wasn't there a chupacabra also found on the West Mesa, and it turned out to be a devilfish that was from like a souvenir shop on the East Coast?
Oh, I had not heard that. When was that?
Later, I think that was in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I couldn't
What
find
is
any...
that turf ball?
This
if
is
only
amazing.
they had added ball, you know.
Right.
I want to read more about this weird sport.
Yeah. Well, he invented it in New York and then moved to Albuquerque. And I guess they had a great time playing it for a few years, and then it just sort of fizzled out. It never caught on.
Maybe.
But he
City on the Edge
did.
It.
Huh?
I'm glad they had a good time with it and were able to play it a bit.
He did say that he owed the inspiration for the game to Satan. So
let's bring this back with maybe a slightly different name.
You don't like football?
For a City on the Edge event.
Oh, and there's this is a picture of former Mayor David Rusk in his later years. So, oh yes, I almost forgot. Okay, one more thing. So I went looking around for more, kind of trying to find out when was the end of a Satanic Panic in Albuquerque. Nationally, when I told you about the McMartin preschool trial, what happened was everybody involved in that got acquitted. The kids admitted that they had been trying to answer questions in a way that would make the policemen happy, you know, that kind of thing. And there was never any physical evidence. There certainly was no evidence of tunnels under the preschool itself, even though they leveled the preschool to the ground trying to find any sort of evidence.
Oh my God.
So everyone involved in that was acquitted. And most murders that were linked to Satanism were found to be connected more or less to typical motives like robbery or family disputes and things like that. So Satanic Panic on the national scale wound up fizzling out. A few churches kind of continued to do things like burn Harry Potter books, which you can see in the image that's my backdrop here in 2001. And I'm sure there's still some people who are very concerned about Satanism that are, you know, kind of more linked from that time. Of course, like you mentioned, Nora, QAnon is kind of a weird resurgence, like a very information age resurgence of the same kind of like worries, devil worship,
weird
use of children, super tenuous links to, symbols, and is there a secret basement underneath Comet Ping Pong, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
People do not understand critical thinking. They just don't understand how to weigh evidence. And so if they hear a compelling case made, then all they ultimately have to go on is like, well, I guess this makes sense and feels right to me.
You know, you start getting into the numbers of things. 13 tires on each side, 6 sides per hexagram, 3 hexagrams, six. Like, you could convince yourself that there's something there if you didn't know it was this ball game.
Yeah.
And stuff, I think, you know, the connection both with QAnon and the Satanic Panic to child abuse is that child abuse does exist.
Oh, totally.
But it's like this, I don't know if it's an easy or it's a more, you know, right, you don't have to talk about poverty or education or whatever.
But
it's just about Satan and
mustache twirling villains. One thing that surprised me was I went looking to find evidence of kind of more recent Satanic Panic stuff, and I found one from December of this year right here in Albuquerque.
Oh.
And it's David Rusk. No, it says, let me see if I can move that. Stop Satanic Santa at the University of New Mexico. I completely missed this story. What happened was an organization called Antlion Art Collective was going to hold an event to promote mask usage and to purchase masks for one of our direct aid organizations here in town. And what the guy says is that he was doing a sit on Santa's lap event and he misspelled it Satan's lap. And then being an artist, he decided to just go with it and promoted the event with this picture here. That's Santa with a pretty disturbing demon's face superimposed, right? And so he
still seeing that mayor.
Oh, there we go. Are you really? Oh,
no, there it is. Wow.
Yeah, pretty creepy. And so he promoted the event as sit on Satan's lap for mask usage, and a local. It actually made national news. People were upset about it. There was a petition signed for.
I didn't hear about this.
I didn't hear about it at all. I guess there was just too many like real things to worry about going on all the time. But 20,000 people signed a petition asking President Garnet Stokes to not allow this satanic event to happen at UNM. Well, I went looking to see what happened to that tire structure, right? Like, I couldn't find anything.
Of course you did. I love it, Ty. You're the best.
Couldn't find it. It's as far as I can tell, it doesn't exist anymore because the land that it was on is now Petroglyph National Monument.
Oh wow!
So I'd imagine that the Park Service probably got rid of it if it had been left out there prior to that. So sadly, if we play turf ball, we'll have to make our own court.
I might have to go and feed and deal with my dog. I'm sorry, she's jumping on me.
That sounds like a good time to say goodbye. I've enjoyed spending this time with Nora, Mike, and Satan. So thank you.
Always here.
Y'all are the best. I can't wait till we can all hang out in person again someday. And hello to our listeners and stuff. It feels more like a Zoom hangout than a podcast episode.
It's a bit there, but we got a story, so I'll be doing some editing.
Thanks.
Nice. All right.
Bye.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Later.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of City on the Edge. If you enjoyed our show, tell your friends, like and share our stuff on social media, and check out our YouTube channel by searching for City on the Edge Albuquerque. This episode has been made possible by our supporters on Patreon, aka the coolest people on the planet. To join them in their support of our show and get exclusive access to content, t-shirts, and swag, go to patreon.com/cityontheedge and sign up for one of the tiers starting as low as $1 a month. This has been a City on the Edge production.